Have you ever felt the world crumble in your hands? The cracked mirror in the bathroom of the Golden Spoon restaurant didn't reflect just an image. It mirrored 1,000 fragments of a soul being torn apart in real time. Maya Rodriguez, 24 years old, was sitting there, and in the trembling hands that you can almost feel shaking, a medical bill that whispered words no daughter should ever have to read. $18,247.82. Each number pulsed like an irregular heartbeat on Maya's retina. The tears, hot, salty, desperate, fell onto the official paper from Oakland Medical Center with the cruel precision of Chinese torture. Drip. The first drop. Drip. The second, dissolving the blue ink of the word urgent. Drip. The third, which you can hear echoing like drops in an empty cave, in an empty soul, in an empty bank account. The smell. Ah, the smell. Can you feel it? Hospital disinfectant. That chemical and cold aroma that sticks in your throat, mixed with rancid frying oil that had become the permanent fragrance of her existence. It's the perfume of survival, sweet and nauseating at the same time. Maya took off her shoes. Payless, $12.99, 8 months ago. And when you work 16 hours a day, every step counts, every crack in the sole counts, every... Oh, God. Blood. Red blood. Fresh, hot, contrasting with the white sock that had once been white in a previous life. In a version of Maya that still believed in happy endings. The hole in the right sole was exactly the size of a 25-cent coin. Ironic, isn't it? And when she touched the wound, feeling the rough texture of raw flesh, a low, animal, primitive moan escaped from her throat. Why me? The question ricocheted off the dirty tile walls like an echo that refuses to die. Why my mother? Why now? Why always me? 3 questions that millions of people ask every day, but which at this moment, in this bathroom in this life, seemed to have been written specifically to torture Maya Rodriguez. Ding, ding, ding! The kitchen bell. 3 rings. Chef Rodriguez, no family relation, just the universe being cruel with coincidences, was losing patience. Maya could feel his irritation cutting through the wall, could almost hear the Spanish curse words he was muttering. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her uniform, cheap polyester that scratches the skin like sandpaper. Put the medical bill in her pocket, close to her heart, where the pain is most intense, put on her bloody shoes, and looked once more at the cracked mirror. There, in the glass fragments that reflected 1,000 different versions of herself, Maya didn't see a victim. She saw a warrior who had no idea that on the other side of that peeling wooden door, fate was scribbling in the cosmic agenda an encounter that would change not only her life, but would become the most shared story on the internet. Some doors open to corridors, others open to miracles. Maya was about to discover which type of door she would open. And you are about to witness the impossible become inevitable. The door creaked, a sound that Maya knew better than her own breathing. It was the same creak every morning for exactly 2 years, 4 months, and 17 days. Each day counted, each day survived, each day closer to what? She no longer knew. 4:47 in the morning. The first alarm. Not the cell, phone alarm. Maya couldn't afford a plan that included an alarm, but the internal alarm that her body had developed through months of sleep deprivation and absolute necessity. It was as if every cell in her organism had been reprogrammed for survival. She got up from bed, a single mattress on the floor, without a base, because bases cost money she didn't have, in a room she shared with 3 roommates she rarely saw. Each one worked different hours, each one fighting her own silent battle against urban poverty in Oakland. The cold linoleum under her bare feet made her shiver instantly. It was September, but the morning carried that damp coldness typical of Northern California, which penetrates the bones and doesn't leave until the sun rises completely. Maya Rodriguez's normal world was anything but normal. In the shared bathroom, a tiny space with tiles that had once been white and now had the indefinable color of years of use and insufficient cleaning, Maya performed her morning ritual. She brushed her teeth with a toothbrush that should have been replaced 6 months ago, using toothpaste from the cheapest brand at Walmart, the kind that leaves a metallic taste in your mouth and makes you question whether you're really cleaning or just creating an illusion of hygiene. While brushing, her eyes stopped on a small photo, almost hidden behind the toothpaste tube. A photo she kept like a secret. It was Maya, 3 years younger, smiling with an immaculate white lab coat. UC Berkeley School of Nursing was stamped in the background of the photo. In the eyes of that Maya from the past shone something that today's Maya could no longer recognize: pure, crystalline, unbreakable hope. She touched the photo quickly, like someone touching a wound that never healed, and hid it again behind the toothpaste. Some dreams are demons that visit you every morning. 5:15 in the morning. Uniform number 1. Black pants from Walmart. $8.99 on sale, with a small hole in the seam of the right leg that she sewed every week with thread she stole from work. White blouse that had once been white in a previous life, before hundreds of washes with cheap soap and hard water. The shoes we knew intimately. Payless, $12.99, 8 months ago, with the right sole perforated in dried blood that she tried to hide with black shoe polish. The Golden Spoon restaurant and diner demanded professional presentation from its employees. Maya always laughed bitterly at this irony. How do you maintain professional presentation with a salary that barely pays for presentation? Before leaving, she checked her bag. Always the same check. Wallet, $23.47. Enough for the round-trip bus, $4.50, and maybe a snack at work if there was money left over from tips. Cell phone, old Nokia, indestructible. The kind that still works when the apocalypse comes. No internet, no apps, just calls and messages. $15 per month prepaid plan that she sometimes couldn't afford to renew. Mother's medicine, a small bottle of metformin that cost $89.99 per month and consumed almost half of Maya's salary. She always carried some extra pills in case her mother forgot to take them at home. And, hidden at the bottom of the bag, wrapped in newspaper, a nursing book she had bought used for $5 2 years ago. Fundamentals of Medical Surgical Nursing. She never opened it in public, but sometimes, during longer work breaks, she leafed through some pages and pretended she still had a chance. 5:33 in the morning. Bus 47. A arrived punctually at 5:35. Maya knew every curve of the route, every stop, every pothole in the road that made the vehicle shake as if it were going to fall apart. 23 minutes of travel, costing $2.25 that she counted as an investment, because walking would take 2 hours and she didn't have 2 hours to waste. She always sat in the same place, third seat on the right side, near the window, where she could observe the city of Oakland waking up. It was her moment of forced meditation, where she had no choice but to stay quiet and let thoughts flow. People going to jobs that paid enough to have cars. Executives in BMWs talking on the phone about businesses that Maya couldn't even comprehend. Mothers in minivans taking children to private schools that cost more per month than Maya earned in 3 months. And it was during this trip, on the 5th consecutive day of light rain that made Oakland seem even grayer, that the phone rang. The old Nokia vibrated in her pocket with that mechanical intensity that seemed to say, "Urgent, urgent, urgent." Maya looked at the display. Unknown number. Her heart immediately accelerated. Unknown numbers in her life meant only 3 things: merciless debt, collectors, hospital with bad news, or family emergency. She looked at the ringing phone. Ringing, ringing, ring, ring, ring. Each ring echoed like an alarm signal. The other bus passengers started looking in her direction. An elderly lady frowning. A man in a suit checking his own cell phone, irritated by the noise. And she hung up. Not by choice, but because sometimes, when you're surviving penny by penny, bad news can wait at least until you're safe at work. 6 o'clock in the key morning. Sharp. The Golden Spoon was the type of restaurant that Oakland had by the dozens. It wasn't bad enough to close, nor good enough to prosper. It lived in a gray zone of survival, just like Maya, just like half the businesses on Fruitvale Avenue. The walls, yellowed by time and smoke from 1,000 cigarettes, told stories of dreams that also hadn't come true. The employee entrance was in the back, through an alley that permanently smelled of organic garbage and urine. Maya pushed the rusty metal door that creaked like an agonizing creature, and was immediately hit by the familiar aroma. Rancid frying oil, burnt coffee, cheap cleaning products, and that indefinable smell of a place that has seen too much. "Rodriguez, you're 3 minutes late!" Jerry's voice cut through the air like a rusty razor before Maya could even hang her bag in the employee locker. Jerry Kowalski was a man in his early 50s who had found in pettiness his only source of power. Supervisor for 15 years, he measured his authority in seconds of lateness and sense of difference in the register. Every employee's tardiness was a personal victory. Every mistake was an opportunity to demonstrate that he still had relevance in this world. "Sorry, Jerry. The bus, nothing." Jerry consulted the Casio wristwatch he wore as if it were a Rolex. 3 minutes are 3 minutes. This will come out of your salary. 25 cents. Maya calculated automatically. 25 cents. That would make a difference in buying milk at the end of the month. 25 cents that could be the difference between having dinner or not having dinner on Thursday. She just nodded and began the ritual. It was always the same ritual, performed 6 days a week, with the precision of a religious ceremony. First, check the tables. The night shift always left at least 3 dirty tables, because they didn't have time to clean. Maya checked each of the 22 tables in the dining room, cleaning with cleaning product that made her eyes burn and her hands dry out. Second, prepare the condiment stations. Ketchup, mustard, homemade ranch sauce, which came from an industrial bottle, sugar, sweetener, toothpicks. Each container should be in the exact place, with the label turned toward the customer, as if this would make any difference in the gastronomic experience of a restaurant where the house specialty was eggs any style for $3.99. Third, smile. Always smile. The smile that hurts, as she called it, mentally. It was a smile she had perfected over 2 years of daily humiliations, a smile that said, "I'm happy to serve you," when it really meant, Please be kind to me. I'm doing the best I can. 6:47 in the morning. Crash! The sound of dishes breaking echoed through the kitchen like an explosion. Chef Rodriguez, Francisco Rodriguez. No family relation, just a cruel coincidence of fate that made Jerry laugh every time he introduced the two. Rodriguez, to visitors, had dropped a stack of plates while trying to reach a pot in the upper cabinet. Maya felt each piece of ceramic break as if it were a piece of her own soul. Not because of the dishes themselves, but because she knew exactly what would come next. "Maya, clean up this mess, and come quickly. There are customers waiting," Francisco shouted with the same enthusiasm he used for everything else, making fried eggs, hamburgers, and criticizing life. He was a 40-year-old man who insisted on being called chef, even working in a restaurant where the greatest culinary complexity was not burning the toast. While sweeping the shards, thinking about how each broken plate probably cost more than her hourly wage, Maya felt something strange in her bag. Something that shouldn't be there. Her hand found the small bottle of metformin she had forgotten to store at home. $89.99 a box. Her mother's medicine. The medicine that consumed almost half of her monthly salary and kept Maria Rodriguez alive one more day at a time. She looked at the bottle, then at the ceramic shards on the floor, then at Jerry watching her every movement with hawk eyes, hungry for any reason for more public humiliation. 7:30 in the morning. The morning movement started slowly, as always. The Golden Spoon wasn't anyone's destination. It was just the place where people stopped when all other options were worse or more expensive. The first customers were always the same. Mr. Peterson, a lonely 73-year-old retiree who came every morning to order black coffee and scrambled eggs, not because the food was good, but because it was the only place where someone talked to him. He always sat at table 7, always left exactly $1.50 tip, 15% of a $10 bill, and always asked about the weather as if it were the most important question in the world. "Good morning, Mr. Peterson." The usual? "Good morning, Maya, dear. You know I do. And it's a bit cold out there today, isn't it? I think it's going to rain." Maya smiled, the real smile this time, because Mr. Peterson was genuinely kind. "It is, sir. I'll bring your coffee nice and hot." Then came the hurried executives, men and women in expensive suits who ordered double coffees to endure meetings that would decide the future of companies Maya would never hear about. They talked loudly on the phone about synergies and market, penetration, and disruptive innovation, using words that sounded like magic from a world from which she was permanently excluded. At 8:15, the young mothers arrived, women Maya's age, some even younger, pushing baby strollers that cost more than her monthly salary. They ordered decaffeinated lattes, which were just regular coffee because the Golden Spoon didn't have an espresso machine, and talked about yoga classes, playgroups, and which Montessori school was better for 2-year-old children. Maya served them with the same professional smile, but inside she felt a mixture of envy and sadness so intense that sometimes she needed to hide in the bathroom to cry for 30 seconds before returning to work. 8:47 in the morning. And then he entered. Table 12 was in the right corner of the restaurant, near the window that faced Fruitvale Avenue. It was a table for 2 people, but he sat alone. A man appearing to be about 30 years old, medium height, wearing sneakers that Maya immediately identified as expensive. Her radar for expensive sneakers had been developed through years of direct correlation between shoe quality and tip generosity. Simple jeans, basic t-shirt, nothing that called attention. But there was something in his eyes, an intensity, as if he were seeing not just Maya, but through Maya, as if he knew something that she herself didn't know. "Good morning. Welcome to the Golden Spoon. Can I offer coffee to start?" Maya approached with the standard smile, carrying the industrial coffee pot that weighed 3 kilograms and made motorcycle engine noise when it worked. "Sure." His voice was calm, polite. "And have you worked here long?" Strange question. Customers usually didn't ask personal questions. Maya felt a small alarm go off in her mind. Could he be a government inspector? Someone investigating employee documentation? But she needed the potential tip. 2 years, sir." Must be tiring. "You have no idea," Maya thought. But what she said was, "I like what I do, sir." The lie came out automatically. It was a lie she had repeated so many times that she almost believed it. The man smiled. It wasn't a condescending or forced smile like she was used to seeing. It was kind. Genuinely kind. When was the last time someone had smiled at Maya like that? She served the coffee, noticing that his hands were well cared for, but had some small scars. Hands of someone who had worked physically at some point in life, but who now clearly didn't need to anymore. And when she turned to leave, she felt that he continued watching. Why was this man watching her specifically? 9:15 in the morning. The movement gradually increased. Maya ran between tables carrying trays that seemed to get heavier every hour. Coffee for table 3. Scrambled eggs for table 9. Burnt toast, which the customer refused, for table 15. Bill for table 2. More coffee for table 7. Extra ketchup for table 11. And during all this time, the man at table 12 remained there. He had only ordered coffee, but had been there for almost an hour. He was reading a newspaper, the Oakland Tribune. But Maya noticed that his eyes left the page frequently, observing the restaurant's movement, observing her. 10:23 in the morning. The morning had that frenetic energy typical of the time between breakfast and lunch. The kind of movement that makes experienced waitresses like Maya move on autopilot. Table 4 wants more coffee. Table 7 complains about the egg temperature. Table 15 leaves a mess that seems to have been made by people who hated their own existence. And Table 12 was still occupied. 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours, the man with expensive sneakers had remained at the same table, drinking coffee that should have been cold long ago. Maya observed him discreetly while carrying a tray of dirty dishes. He wasn't eating, wasn't talking on the phone, wasn't doing anything except existing and watching her. It was then that the incident happened that would change everything. Maya was cleaning table 18 when she saw a family approaching. Father, mother, and 3 small children. But something was wrong. The youngest child, a girl of maybe 3 years old, was visibly sick. Pale as paper, coughing a dry cough that echoed through the restaurant like a miniature ambulance siren. The mother, a woman of about 30 with dark circles so deep they seemed to have been excavated with a shovel, held the child in her lap while trying to control the other 2. Something very familiar in that scene. The family sat at table 18, right in Maya's field of vision. She approached with the professional smile she had perfected. But when she looked into the woman's eyes, she saw something that made her momentarily forget where she was. Hopelessness. It was the same look that Maya saw in the mirror every morning. The look of someone who was fighting a war they knew they couldn't win. The look of someone who was trying to be strong for other people when they could barely be strong for themselves. "Sorry for the delay. What can I bring you?" The woman looked up, and Maya could see dried tears in the corners of her eyes. Just a coffee, please, and maybe a glass of water for her." The woman indicated the sick child. "She can't swallow anything solid, but the doctors said to try to keep her hydrated." "Das the doctors." The word hit Maya like a punch in the stomach. She knew that tone. It was the same tone she used when talking about her mother's doctors. The same resignation mixed with desperate hope. "Of course. And for the other children?" The woman looked at the two healthy children, a boy of maybe 6 years old and a 4-year-old girl, who watched everything with that precocious wisdom that only poor children develop. They knew there would be no food. They knew that Mom was lying when she said she wasn't hungry. They knew that something was very, very wrong. "No, we don't have money for anything else today, just the coffee." The sentence hung in the air like a painful confession. Maya felt something breaking inside her chest. It was a physical, real sensation, as if someone had broken a rib inside. She looked at the two healthy children, then at the sick child who coughed sporadically, then at the mother who clearly hadn't slept in days. And then, without thinking, without brain, authorization, her words came out. "You know what? It's our special day for families. Children get free pancakes." The lie came out so naturally that she almost believed it herself. The woman looked at her with a mixture of gratitude and distrust that Maya knew well. It was the look of someone who had been disappointed so many times that they could no longer believe in free kindness. "You don't need to. We don't want charity." "It's not charity. It's a special promotion we do every Tuesday." Maya improvised, knowing she was lying shamelessly and would probably be discovered by Jerry in a matter of minutes. "Let me get that for you." While walking toward the kitchen, knowing she would pay for those pancakes out of her own pocket, money that should go to her mother's medicine, to rent, to survive another week, Maya felt something strange. Eyes. Not Jerry's or Chef Rodriguez's eyes. Other eyes, more intense, more emotional. She turned discreetly and saw the man at table 12. He had stopped pretending to read the newspaper. He was looking directly at her, and on his face there was an expression that Maya couldn't completely decipher. Admiration? Recognition? Something deeper? For a second, just a second, their eyes met. And in that moment, Maya felt something she hadn't felt in years. Connection. Not the desperate hope of someone drowning who sees a branch passing by, but a real, human connection, as if someone had just said, "I see you. I understand. You're not alone in this fight." But how was it possible? He was just a customer. Or wasn't he? 10:45 in the morning. "Rodriguez, where are those pancakes?" Jerry's voice cut through the moment like an electric saw. Maya ran to the kitchen, explained to Francisco about the special Tuesday promotion, which he questioned briefly before shrugging, and paid for the pancakes out of her own pocket. $8.50. That would make a crucial difference at the end of the month. When she returned to table 18 with 3 plates of pancakes, small but warm and with real syrup, the mother was crying silently. The 2 healthy children were holding their sick sister's little hands, forming a human chain of protection that made Maya's heart almost stop beating. "Here are the special pancakes." Maya placed the plates on the table with the care of someone delivering sacred relics. "And I brought some extra honey for her." She indicated the sick child. Sometimes, sweetness helps when the throat is hurt. The woman looked at Maya with eyes that shone with unshed tears. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. But I do, Maya thought. I know exactly what it means to have someone being kind when the whole world seems to have conspired against you. As she walked away from the table, Maya couldn't imagine that on the other side of the restaurant, the mysterious man was making a phone call. 11:30 in the morning. Maya hadn't stopped for even a minute since she arrived. Coffee for table 2. Rare hamburger, which became well done because Francisco wasn't paying attention, for table 8. Bill for table 5. More coffee for almost all tables because the industrial coffee maker made coffee so weak that customers needed 3 cups to have the effect of 1. And during all this time, table 12 remained occupied. The mysterious man had expanded his presence. Now he had not only the newspaper, but also a cell phone on the table. Sometimes Maya caught him talking quietly on the phone, but he always stopped talking when she approached nearby tables. Why was he watching her specifically? And why did she feel strangely comforted by this observation? It was during the lunch rush that Jerry decided to make the day even more difficult. Rodriguez, come here. Maya felt her stomach contract automatically. Conversations with Jerry never ended well. She approached the counter where he was reviewing papers with the dedication of an IRS auditor looking for fraud. Your overtime hours are costing too much for the restaurant. Jerry spoke without looking up from the papers, as if he were reading someone's obituary. Starting next week, no overtime. You work your 8 hours and leave. The words hit Maya like consecutive punches to the stomach. Overtime meant $127 extra per week. It meant the difference between paying rent and sleeping on the street. It meant the difference between buying her mother's medicine and watching her die slowly from lack of medication. Jerry, please, I need those hours. My mother is sick and I don't care. Jerry finally looked up, and Maya saw in his eyes a coldness that made her physically recoil. What I need are employees who don't cost more than they produce. You accept it or look for another job. Another job. As if it were that simple. As if there were lines of employers eager to hire a 24-year-old waitress without a college degree, without experience in other areas, without a network of contacts, without anything except the willingness to work 16 hours a day just to survive. Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes, but swallowed them with the expertise of someone who had learned to cry internally. Crying in front of Jerry would give him more ammunition, more reasons to humiliate her publicly. I understand, Jerry. Good that you understood. Now get back to work. Table 6 has been waiting for 5 minutes. Maya nodded and turned around, feeling as if she had just signed her own financial death sentence. $127 less per week. $508 less per month. How was she going to explain to her mother that there wouldn't be enough money for the medicines? How was she going to explain to herself that she had failed once again? While heading to table 6, Maya noticed that the man at table 12 had stopped talking on the phone and was looking directly at her. It wasn't a look of casual curiosity. It was a look of someone who had heard the entire conversation and understood exactly what that meant. But why would he care? And why did Maya feel that, somehow inexplicably, he really did care? 12:15 in the afternoon. Lunch brought a new wave of customers, and Maya moved between tables with the mechanical efficiency of someone who had transformed service into the art of survival. But her mind was elsewhere, calculating and recalculating numbers. That didn't add up at all. Base salary, $1,247 per month. Rent, $650. Mother's medicines, $267. Food, $150, if she was very, very careful. Transportation, $90. Electric bill, divided with roommates, $35. Total, $1,192. She had $55 left for emergencies, clothes, any unforeseen event that life decided to throw in her direction. And that was with overtime. Without it, it didn't add up. It simply didn't add up. She would have to choose between rent and her mother's medicines, between eating and keeping the lights on, between surviving and… what? There was no other option besides surviving. It was in the middle of these desperate calculations that the phone rang. The old Nokia vibrated in her pocket with that mechanical insistence that had already become the official sound of terror in Maya's life. She looked at the display. Unknown number. The same number that had called in the morning on the bus. Ring. 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 Maya looked around. Jerry was in the kitchen yelling at Francisco about something. The customers were busy with their conversations and meals. She had maybe 30 seconds before someone noticed she wasn't working. With her heart beating like an unregulated engine, she answered, "Hello? Maya Rodriguez?" The voice was female, professional, with that neutral tone that people in hospitals and collection offices learn to give bad news without sounding personally involved. "Yes. This is Jennifer from the financial department of Oakland Medical Center. I need to speak with you about your mother's account, Maria Rodriguez." The world stopped. Literally stopped. Maya could hear her own heart beating like a war drum, could feel blood running through her veins, could see the restaurant lights blinking as if she were going to faint. What? What happened? Unfortunately, we had to update the account value. With the new tests that were necessary after the last consultation, and adjustments in dialysis procedures, the total is now $24,315. The words floated in the air like a curse in a foreign language. Maya had to repeat mentally to make sure she had heard correctly. $24,315. $6,000 more than the original bill. $6,000 that represented almost 5 years of her net salary. $6,000 that were the difference between impossible and completely impossible. "And, Miss Rodriguez," Jennifer's voice continued with the same professional neutrality, as if she were reading the weather forecast. "I need to inform you that, without payment of at least 50% of the total amount by Friday, we cannot continue with your mother's dialysis treatment." Friday. Today was Tuesday. 3 days. How much? How much is 50%? Maya asked the question, even knowing she didn't want to hear the answer. $12,157.50. $12,157.50. Maya felt the ground opening under her feet, like a black hole that would swallow not only her, but her entire family, her entire existence, all the dreams she still had the courage to dream. She had $843 in her checking account. $843 against $12,000. It was like trying to put out a fire with a glass of water. "Miss Rodriguez, are you there?" I'm here. I'm very sorry to have to give this news, but these are the hospital's policies. Medicare doesn't cover all the procedures your mother needs, and the overdue amount has already exceeded our limits. If you can get at least half the amount by Friday, we can renegotiate a payment plan for the rest. The call ended, and Maya stood there in the middle of the restaurant, holding the phone as if it were a bomb about to explode. Around her, life continued. Customers talking about work, children, weekend plans. Jerry yelling at someone in the kitchen. The sound of the industrial coffee maker working like a medieval torture machine. But for Maya, the world had completely stopped. $12,000. 3 days. Mother dying. It was the end. It was then that she noticed that tears had started falling, without permission. Not discreet tears she could hide. Real tears, thick, desperate, that ran down her face like rain on a broken window. And it was exactly at that moment, while Maya was standing there in the middle of the Golden Spoon, crying without being able to stop, holding a phone that had just destroyed her life, knowing she had no way to save her mother, knowing she had failed at the only thing that really mattered. It was exactly at that moment that she looked at table 12 and saw it was empty. The mysterious man had left. For the first time in 4 hours, table 12 was empty, and Maya felt a strange sensation of loss, as if she had lost something important, but didn't know exactly what. It was then that she saw it. An envelope. A white envelope, small, left discreetly under the coffee saucer. Maya looked around to make sure no one was watching. Jerry was still in the kitchen, customers busy with their own lives, and approached the table. With hands trembling so much, she could barely hold the paper. She picked up the envelope. On the outside, written in masculine and careful handwriting, "For Maya." She opened the envelope right there, next to table 12, where that strange man had spent 4 hours watching her life fall apart in real time. Inside the envelope, there was a $20 bill and a business card. The card was simple, white, with only one name printed in black letters, Steph Curry, and a phone number, Steph Curry. Maya looked at the name without understanding. It seemed familiar, but she couldn't locate where from. Maybe a regular customer she had forgotten? Maybe someone who knew the family? She turned the card over. On the back, handwritten in the same careful handwriting as the envelope. Maya, your heart and strength inspire more people than you imagine. Sometimes angels appear when we least expect them. Call this number tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Your life is about to change. A friend who believes in you. Maya read the EB note 3 times before the words made sense. $20 and a card with promises that seemed too impossible to be true. For someone with $12,000 in medical debt and 3 days deadline, $20 was a drop in the ocean. But at that moment, holding that piece of paper that proved that someone, a complete stranger, had noticed her existence, had recognized her effort, had chosen to believe in her when she herself could no longer believe. At that moment, $20 and a business card seemed like a miracle. Maya leaned against the wall and cried once more. But this time, they were different tears. Tears of exhaustion, yes. Of despair, yes. But also tears of something she hadn't felt for so long she had forgotten the name. Hope? Because in a world that seemed to have forgotten kindness, someone had chosen to be good to her. Someone had seen her struggle and decided she deserved help. Someone had handwritten that her life was about to change. She had no idea that this someone was one of the most famous athletes in the world. She had no idea that he had spent the last 4 hours organizing a surprise that would change not only her life, but her entire family's life. She had no idea that tomorrow, when she made that call, would begin a story that would make the whole world believe again in human kindness. All Maya knew, holding that card and those $20, was that maybe, Just maybe. There were still angels in this world, and maybe one of them had just crossed her path. While putting the card in her pocket, close to her heart, where she kept the most important things, Maya couldn't imagine that outside the restaurant, Steph Curry was on the phone with his manager, organizing the transfer of an amount that would make her problems disappear like smoke. She couldn't imagine that her story was about to inspire documentaries, books, and millions of acts of kindness around the world. She couldn't imagine that the man who had drunk cold coffee for 4 hours just to watch her work was someone who moved crowds and changed lives with the same ease with which he made three-point shots. All Maya knew was that, for the first time in years, she had a reason to believe that tomorrow could be different. Some encounters change destinies forever. You are about to witness the impossible.